What's up, Abaddon man? Back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today this is the one that I was putting off. Let me start over. What's up, Abaddon man? Back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another MonsterVerse news roundup. That's right. In this video, we will be continuing our chronological journey through the development and release of Godzilla Kong the New Empire and the next MonsterVerse movie by finally finishing off events from 2024. This is the last news roundup for 2024. Hello, the new era. Before we begin, this channel is growing so fast, and I would love if you could be a part of that. Please subscribe right now, join D-Force today. We are on our way to 101,000 subscribers as part of the journey to 101,954. Connect the dots. Figure out why I want that one so bad. But yeah, please subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And you did not mishear me at the start. This was the news and updates that I was putting off for a while. This is the reason that I was kind of slow to put out news and updates recently, and kind of the reason I was putting it off is because I haven't finished Kong Survivor Instinct. I didn't want spoilers for the game, but I had to just rip the band-aid off. I already know some spoilers for the game, and it was time. It was just time to move on. I want to catch up, and so let's do it. Let's get into it. And I'm glad I did, because this was actually a really cool interview. Starting out, let's show off some artwork from the community as always, and this first piece comes to us from VUQQZU, and this is their Godzilla 2014 art. I don't know what type of boat this is down here, but I love that Godzilla. He looks so mythical. The white Godzilla is a super interesting idea that we've never really seen before, so that was pretty neat. Actually, it's kind of funny because the next art we're going to talk about also kind of features a white Godzilla. This one comes to us from DJ Tusk Goji, and this was inspired by one of my news roundup videos where I discussed my idea for Space Godzilla in the MonsterVerse and how I thought a natural entry point for Space Godzilla, one of the most ridiculous Toho characters to ever grace the screens, one that was almost universally rejected at the time of his appearance, and one that has been made fun of ever since for being such a stupid idea. Well, how do you get that thing into the MonsterVerse? You have to change the origins. Space Godzilla has two origins in the Toho continuity, and they never picked one, so why not come up with a new one? And in my pitch, Space Godzilla is the result of merging DNA from King Ghidorah, that's where the space comes from, with Shimo, that's where the crystals come from, and Godzilla himself to get Space Godzilla. Now, DJ Tusk Goji released this one. I think it is such a Shin Godzilla styled freakazoid. I think it is so cool. Personally, I would think that if you call this thing Space Godzilla, you're going to upset the really diehard Space Godzilla fan base, but I think that this is an amazing new kaiju. I really love this interpretation of Crystal Space Godzilla. I know a lot of people saw this and called it Zozula Halawa. I love the weird little faces as part of the wings. It's creepy, it's disturbing, it's just odd. I thought it was pretty cool, so I wanted to show that off. This is amazing. Please, genuinely, if anybody out there knows even how to begin to start to do this, please comment below. I want to start doing stuff like this so bad. Let's take a look. This is Mothra World's Mothra MonsterVerse style. I can't tell if it's Mothra 2019 or Mothra GXK. I think it's Mothra 2024, Mothra GXK. The body looks amazing. I mean, oh my god, the arms, the shine, the whole thing looks great. The furry little body is so cute. I love the face on this thing. And then the enormous wings are amazing. This thing looks incredible. Great paint job, great sculpting. I love to see creative projects like this. I love to see stuff like this. Mothra World is an amazing creator over on Twitter if you don't know. He makes tons and tons of Mothras like this, and this one I just thought deserved a special shout out because it's so freaking cool. Mr. Goji54 over on Twitter discovered this Abaddon size chart, which was posted originally on Reddit, it seems, and it shows off how tall Abaddon is in the MonsterVerse. Of course, Abaddon is the new Titan that debuted in Kong Survivor Instinct, the video game, and Abaddon is freaking enormous. I had no clue this is how large this thing is, especially with that bulky body. You don't get a great sense of that in the game. I haven't actually gotten Abaddon yet in the game, but I've seen some of the footage in the trailers and such. You don't get a great sense of that simply because they fudged the scale so much, as we'll talk about later. But Abaddon is so freaking enormous here. It actually really seems unlikely that Kong would be able to defeat this thing in a fight. Godzilla is almost dwarfed by this thing and could easily be overpowered by it if Godzilla wasn't such an overpowered character. The Toho Godzilla would really struggle with this thing. It's pretty cool. The Bandai Movie Monster Series Godzilla 1998 was revealed. This goes in the MonsterVerse video just because it's an American Godzilla. I think it's so freaking awesome they're doing that. I think it is so so cool to see Godzilla 1998 get some love, especially under the official license Godzilla. It's cool that they call this thing Godzilla still. The Bandai Movie Monster Series Godzilla 1998 went on sale between $24 and $35 online. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to order it yet, but I think it looks amazing. The sculpt looks great, wonderful detailing throughout. I love the paint job, the little highlights of silver on the chest, the bluish turquoise on the spines. I think it looks amazing. Here's a comparison during Godzilla Store TV showing off the Bandai Movie Monster Series Zilla 2004 and Godzilla 1998, showing that they're not the same sculpt and they're not really all that similar. I think it's really incredible how much more detail the 1998 one has and how they reflect the differences between the actual characters. I think that's awesome. Haya's stylistic series 7-inch Godzilla Wingoji, aka Godzilla Evolved, was displayed here. Here are these photos. They're just showing off how it's come along. This thing is a $51 figure. Haya's exquisite basic series Godzilla 7-inch 2024. I think this is Godzilla Unevolved, so this is, I guess, more accurately like Godzilla 2019, Godzilla 2021. Godzilla with Heat Ray was revealed. This is an $80 figure. It looks incredible. The sculpt looks amazing, first and foremost, but it does come with that Heat Ray gimmick. So it has LEDs that light up straight through the tail, straight through the spines, into Godzilla's chest, into his face, and through the atomic breath, which is an accessory. It's incredible that it comes with an atomic breath and the ability to light up for $80. I actually think that's a fairly solid price if you really think about it. It comes with an alternate head and alternate hands as well. The fact that a normal Godzilla would be $51 and yet this one has all of these extra features to it, I think it's pretty awesome. Godzilla Battle Line celebrated Godzilla x Kong the New Empire with their second collab, so this one was a really cool one. This is one of my favorite collabs Godzilla Battle Line has done in a very long time. It came with the Godzilla Evolved Rio version, which was a very different type of player piece. I loved the different gimmick with him, and it included one of my favorite pieces to ever be added to the game, Scar King and Shimo, a combo piece, and when Scar King's attacked, he spawns in the red stripes to defend him. It was a super cool little collaboration. I love Godzilla Battle Line. I don't play it a lot anymore just because I'm so addicted to it, but I freaking love that game, and that was one of my favorite collabs they did. Godzilla Kong the New Empire released on Netflix on December 24th, celebrating Christmas Eve. Cool stuff. It's still there now if you want to watch it. 7 Level Studios released this Kong Christmas poster. Very cute, obviously teasing Kong's survivor instinct. The Christmas tree itself is covered in Abaddon's webs. Kong's putting the Monarch symbol on as a star. It's very cute. The Kong sculpt looks incredible here. I actually think Kong looks better here than he does in the game. And I love the extra little details of like Kong having additional scratches on him. Now, he is technically missing the Godzilla scars that Godzilla puts on his chest at the end of GVK, but we'll talk about that in a second, why that might be missing. It's actually a really interesting reason in my opinion. Speaking of, let's get into that Toho Kingdom interview, which was conducted all about Kong Survivor Instinct. It is a wonderful deep dive into the making of the game. To begin, Toho Kingdom got some exclusive concept art and it looks amazing. The first one shows Kong walking away from this destroyed bridge. I think that this one's awesome. Obviously, it's just really cool imagery and world building for the game, but it's also got lots of nice details. Like you've got, I believe these are supposed to be some hyenas or maybe mercenaries standing here. And then I really like the little details of the graffiti. Scratching out the Monarch symbol on the wall saying, "Don't trust Monarch, Titan Zealots." I think that's really, really nice world building. And it's actually the stuff that Kong Survivor Instinct does the best. The next concept art piece is a piece I haven't gotten to in the game yet, but it's these skullcrawler babies called Skull Spawn. They look really weird. That is such a weird look at these skullcrawler creatures. I don't like the warts opened on its arm. It gives me real bad trypophobia. The fact that the eyes don't sit where they should either is also super weird. I think it's so nasty that the skin doesn't sit on the face just right yet. It is such a disturbing, creepy little effed up creature in the MonsterVerse. Kong needs to splat those things ASAP. Those are really nasty. Next up is wonderful concept art showing Kong fighting off Tiamat. I wish that we had this in better quality. It looks awesome. This is one of my favorite art pieces for the entire game. I think it looks fantastic. I actually think this concept art looks much better than most of the concept art for Godzilla Kong the New Empire and Godzilla vs. Kong. It's just so freaking cool. Tiamat wrapping around Kong in this epic battle. This is the kind of visual I need more of in the MonsterVerse, and all the while David looks on while the city cracks around and water rushes through. It's just amazing looking stuff. I love it a lot. We got Abaddon concept art showing off some more trypophobia. I hate the back of Abaddon, this nasty flesh thing. Is that a freaking butthole down there? This is so gross. It's got kind of a spider face pattern in its back. What a ugly, horrific looking monster. I also hate whatever this big bulbous thing is in its back. There's one in its skull and then one of these orbs in its back. Whatever those orbs are, maybe they're egg sacs, I don't know, but they're disgusting. They remind me of the things that get ripped out of Hedorah. Abaddon's a super cool kaiju as well with with the skull face, but then the smaller face down below. Very Skull Island, very Kong of this opponent. I like it a lot. It's a good one to pair up against Kong. Finally, and spoilers for Kong Survivor Instinct, especially moving forward in this video, we gotta look at Lahamu. I believe that's how you say that. Lahamu, it's something like that. This is Tiamat's daughter. It's a cute little thing. I think it looks great. I actually kind of like that it looks so wildly different from Tiamat, as a lot of sea creatures look very different when they're young than they do when they're older. It does obviously bear a very strong resemblance to Tiamat. I love the blue fins all over its body, the wispiness of it. It's very pretty. I think it is a very, very pretty Titan. I like that it has front hands but no back legs yet. That's also super cute. The whole face looks pretty good. Very fish but also shark-like, which is pretty awesome. And then obviously wearing that restraint collar, as I believe it's been kidnapped by the hyenas in the story. Lahamu is actually a character in mythology. It's a minor figure in some variations of Mesopotamian cosmology. This is the female counterpart of Lahamu, which is a sibling. It's the son, or the brother in this case. This is the firstborn daughter of Tiamat and Abuzu. So I looked it up. I don't know too much about this, but Greek mythology is said to be a descendant of Mesopotamian mythology. I love that we're continuing to use mythology as our compass for the MonsterVerse. If Tiamat's gonna have a daughter in the MonsterVerse, I love that it is a character related to Tiamat as well in mythology. That's fantastic. I just love that kind of world building. Running through the interview here, it's really wonderful and insightful. Starting out, it's a Toho Kingdom interview with Chris Mirjahangir and Brian Elston, a new Toho Kingdom interviewer, and they are interviewing Howyal Bayal and Krzysztof Kroll, who I don't know if I said either of their names even remotely right, but they are the co-founders of 7 Levels. They explained that they're the ones who pitched this idea to Legendary. Their idea was to offer fans a less obvious and less explored perspective on the MonsterVerse, kind of like what the Skull Island anime tried to do, but in my opinion, I haven't only gotten into the start of the game. It's already off to a better start, as it feels like it's at least in the same universe as the MonsterVerse. The idea here is that you're not seeing from Monarch's perspective or even a soldier or government perspective. You're seeing it from just the perspective of any other dude living in the MonsterVerse. I think that's a great way in. It's a great way to add scale and weight to the story. They explain Legendary worked closely on connecting the game directly to the MonsterVerse. From the storyline to the monster designs to even the placement of the Monarch logos in the games, Legendary was very intent on making sure this was a canon installment to the series. And you know what? I'll give Legendary some credit, because the longer we go through this, it seems like maybe my wish is finally coming true and there is a plan for the MonsterVerse. I guess we'll see if they capitalize on it in the future, but at least it seems like the potential is back for a cohesive story moving forward, which is all I want. All I want. I'm desperate for it. They explained that they tried to make this game as consistent with the previous releases of the MonsterVerse material as possible and with upcoming Legendary developments. This game has been in development for over 4 years, and so there's actually a lot of projects that came out in that time. Starting out, Godzilla vs. Kong hadn't been out by the time they started work on this game. The Skull Island anime, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Godzilla Kong the Hunted, and Godzilla Kong the New Empire were all released after this game, so they were trying to be very consistent with all of those. Obviously, the films did not acknowledge this game even a little bit, which they really should have, but maybe the next movie will give us some references to this. I'd really hope so. They explained that no monsters were cut from this game along development, but in fact, the game was able to add monsters along the way as it expanded. The monsters that appear in this game are the property of Legendary, and 7 Levels says that Legendary can use them whenever they want. It's completely in Legendary's ballpark now, and 7 Levels really would like to see these Titans return, and so would I. They explained that the original idea for this game was focused a little more on survival, horror, and resource management, but the core of the game remained the same. 7 Level Studios says they focus on 2.5D action-adventure games, not fighting games or open-world sandbox games, so those were never even in the discussion. From the start, the basic idea was for this to be a Kong game, although it's kind of teased sort of kind of a little bit that maybe Godzilla was a potential floated around early in development. They say that, like, yeah, Kong was always on the table, and there were other things we wanted to do, but those didn't make it into development, and I think they're talking about adding Godzilla to the game. They say that essentially they had unlimited creative freedom with this game as long as they didn't contradict canon, and that's why they worked with Legendary. The Legendary creative team tried to be as truthful to the MonsterVerse as possible, and Legendary would often pitch ideas but wouldn't force anything upon them. In fact, it turns out that it was Legendary's idea to debut a brand new Titan in this game rather than in the movies. It was where Abaddon came from. They wanted Abaddon to appear in this game. They also teased that we haven't seen the last of Abaddon, saying, literally, we're pretty sure we haven't seen the last of Abaddon, and that'd be pretty cool if Abaddon makes it into a future MonsterVerse installment. Bela shouts out Peter Jackson's King Kong game, saying that it was the best giant monster game of its generation and that it had some slight inspiration on this game, which is pretty awesome to hear that connection and lineage. That game's obviously a fan favorite. They explain a little bit more about the story, saying saying that David is a single father and an oil rig worker in his early 50s. He lives a peaceful and quiet life in a small town and keeps to himself mostly and hopes that others don't pry into his personal business either. Not because he's got anything to hide, but because he likes to be private and likes to be a loner. His relationship with his daughter, Stacy, was a close and loving one, but weakened as she moved to the big city and started to study and work. They explained that while some people in the MonsterVerse worship the Titans and start Godzilla fan clubs, cough cough Bernie Hayes, David is a different type of character. He's completely indifferent on the Titans until they come crashing into his life and it all becomes personal for him. He's the type of guy that doesn't watch the news or get involved. They explained that David Martin has no relationship to Raymond Martin from Godzilla Kong the Hunted. The names are just simply the same names because of a coincidence. Although it seems that both names have the same inspiration, as Raymond Martin's a direct reference to Raymond Burr's character Steve Martin, and they explain the name Martin was not a mistake. It was picked as an Easter egg to an older character, one that predates the MonsterVerse, aka Steve Martin from Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956 and also Godzilla 1985, who of course had his own Easter egg in Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019's end credits. However, there is no actual in-universe meaning to the name Martin. When asked where Godzilla is during the events of this game, they give the best answer possible. Look, they totally won me over here. Their awareness of what people like myself think, how picky I can be about the MonsterVerse's canon and all of this stuff, and also about respecting the filmmaker's intentions and not contradicting the filmmakers with your own external lore and pretending yours matters more than the filmmakers. That's something that I think is very important. They totally nail it here. These are the types of answers I love. 7 Levels says they have their own internal explanation for why Godzilla doesn't appear in this game, and first of all, that's good enough for me, just as long as there is a reason. I like that, but they say that they will not go into detail about it. They're not going to explain where Godzilla is out of fear that a future MonsterVerse project will cover this time gap, and they won't go into detail about it because they worry fans will treat their word as official canon and hold Legendary to that. And you know what? That's entirely true. If they said where Godzilla was and then all of a sudden Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 addresses this time skip and Godzilla's doing something different, I would be upset about that. They say that only things in the game can be considered canon. I think that's also important. A lot of the time, outside statements will add to the canon and they also convolute it. And I really hope Legendary kind of streamlines the timeline moving forward for that reason. They explain that the monster sizes in the game vary dramatically and they're aware of that. They varied scene from scene based on what the needs of the scene are. They also say that, you know, like even in the films, the monsters' sizes aren't constant. Godzilla in 2014, of course, famously increases in size at the Golden Gate Bridge and at the ending of the movie. Godzilla Kong the New Empire, the sizes are all over the place as well. So yeah, they're not consistent sizes. They say that here the Titans were simply scaled to the sizes that were best for gameplay, not best for canon. So they're aware that Kong is too small in this game. They also admit that it's a very tricky thing to nail down the scale for this game in particular because their size was based on early estimates and Kong Skull Island. Godzilla vs. Kong hadn't been released at the time of development, and by the time they learned how big Kong was in that film, it was already way too late for them to change the size of Kong in development here. It's asked if Abaddon's spawn, the Plague Weavers, are related to the big spider in Mothra's temple in Godzilla King of the Monsters, and again, they nail the answer. Kroll says, "We can't really speak on behalf of the creators of the movies," and that's how it should be. The movies are absolute canon, those are the hard canon, and the filmmakers behind those movies get to dictate canon on their installments. They then say they would love to do a Godzilla game in the future, maybe if this game does well enough, and they say that they gave Kong his love in this game and they would love to use Kong in the future as well, but they hope in the future they can do a game where Godzilla and Kong both get to appear and they get to play around with Godzilla as well, and that's what we all want as well. They also say they really appreciate the warm reception to Lahamu and would like to see her story continue, as well as add new monsters to the MonsterVerse moving forward. I loved this interview. I loved getting to do a deep dive into Kong Survivor Instinct. Fortunately, it didn't spoil like every single thing, or at least like I knew all of this stuff that they talked about here. I really don't know if there's any big spoilers in that game, but that was one of the reasons I kind of put this one off. I didn't want major spoilers before I finished the game. But you know what? I'm very glad I read this interview. It gave me a real deep appreciation for the making of the game and for how carefully they tried to be when making it. Now it's up to the filmmakers to acknowledge this event. Alrighty, that's where I'm gonna leave it for today, but what are your thoughts? Comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. It is through the support of the patrons on Patreon that I'm able to continue to make videos like this for you. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.